ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. So we are in chapter 9. We are going to be doing verse 6 today. So the verse 4 and 5, we saw it was very important verses. It explained nature of God, and we saw that you have to contemplate on it a lot with different examples. We saw there were 4 statements in that, and just to remind, because the more we repeat this, better it will seep into our mind. So the 4 statements were the Krishna Bhagavan said. The first statement was, I pervade, means Brahman pervades this whole universe in its unmanifest form. So that means you cannot see me or comprehend me through your senses, but I pervade everything. Second statement was, the world exists in me, not vice versa. And third statement was, I do not exist in the world, means I do not depend on the world, the real meaning of it. And the last one was, that in fact the real in my real nature there are no beings, means as though the world doesn't exist. And we saw the meaning in detail in the last 2 classes. And now Bhagwan is giving a very powerful example to comprehend this, and the way Chinmayananji was explaining that this has to be meditated upon. Just don't go by the word thing, but what it actually means. So he gives this example in this verse. Let's do the verse first and then we'll go for it. यथाकाशस्थितो नित्यं वायुः सर्वत्र गोमहान् तथा सर्वाणि भूतानि मत्स्थानीत्युपधारय. Yatha is as, Akash sthitah, rest in the space, Nityam, always, Vayuhu, the air, Sarvatra gaha, means moving everywhere. Mahan is, we know the word Mahan in Hindi, great. Tatha, so, means just like that. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, we know what it means now, beings, all the beings. Matsthani, rest in me. Iti, thus. Upadharaya, no. Means you understand this. So Bhagwan is saying that you understand this upadharaya. That with the example of Akash. So this is like Swamiji called it, relationless relationship. The contradictory word, but it's very powerful. And Yatha over here means just as. So just as Akash, in Akash the space, in space the Vayu exists, the air exists, always, Nityam. Because, on this earth we cannot live without the air. So they're always there. Air was there before we came, so we could breathe. So just like this air exists in the space, same way all the beings exist in me. That's what he said. So, Nikhilanandji actually took a slightly different angle, which was also very nice because it was easier to understand. And of course, Chinmayananji, very nicely explained, went more detail. We have to churn over this whole idea of what it is. So he was saying that, Nikhilanandji was saying that when we look around, we see that, space is there everywhere, of course. And then air is there. But one of the problem with air is you can't see it. When we breathe and all, we know we are breathing. So he just said that, let's take the example of cloud. So he took a slightly different angle, but it means the same thing. Because cloud you can see. That's why he said that. So just like, say, cloud exists in space. Okay? So So just take that example with the cloud for a minute, and then we'll go back to the air when we do Chinmayananji's example. And so the entire creation is like, all the beings are like cloud, suppose. Okay, and so the God is like the space, and entire creation cloud. So we are, just say we are the droplets in that cloud. Cloud has moisture and all that. So we are the droplets in the cloud. So he's saying, okay, just look outside. Many times, we have clear skies, we call it, right? It's clear skies. For a while it will be clear, one day it will be clear, next day suddenly the clouds will appear from wherever. We don't even know where they are coming from. They form in the sky, or they come, travel, but actually it just forms. Suddenly it starts forming, and these clouds appear, and then they move here and there, right? Clouds are never steady. They're constantly moving. ऐसे लगता है, मगर if the moment you start focusing on it, you will say they are moving. So, and then they take different shapes. And he was just saying that, children look at the clouds and they look at different shapes. I do that too. Whenever I'm looking at the clouds, I start looking. It's a great pastime, how it is, sky is clear, clouds appear, and there dances around a little bit here and there, and then it disappears. Okay, so that is the example, that it's same way that these two verses apply all the principles over here, and you will get it. So when we look at, this space and look at the cloud, we see that the space is pervading everything. Actually, it's going even beyond the clouds, right? But clouds is definitely pervading, And then what is the nature of space? We can't touch it, we can't see, we can't hear, smell, taste, nothing. It is the most subtle element, because it's the subtlest. And here Bhagwan is subtler than that also, one step beyond that. So, keep that in mind. So from that perspective, space for us is also unmanifest, because we can't do all these different things with space. And it pervades everything. So you can say that the space is in and through the clouds. Because it's like, same way Brahman is in and through us. And then, so pervading part we saw, that it completely matches in this example. And the next thing is that Bhagavan said that, it's not that I am in them, but they are in me. Correct? So the same way, the clouds are in the space. And from that angle, space is not in the cloud, where somebody say, it is. But what they're trying to say, we have to understand. What are they trying to say? That space does not depend on the cloud. But the cloud does depend on the space. Without the space, the cloud cannot be. So that's how it is. And then, the last part, and in pure space, there are no clouds. Because, when the space, clouds is only a small part of our atmosphere. You go beyond that, there's no cloud over there. It's clear. So that's how you have to say. So this is, according to Nikhilananji also, it's a beautiful example to meditate, to help us meditate, what Brahman is. And then, so he's saying that just like the clouds appear, so now imagine that all of us also in the entire creations, we are sustained by Brahman, we appear from Brahman, sustained by Brahman, and go back to Brahman. The same way the clouds are sustained by space, it comes from the space, sustained by space, and they dissolve in the space. And then another very important thing, that all the variety is in the clouds, not in the space. You have so many different, and jo scientists have, I remember studying a little bit about clouds, the different layers and their names, and koi dark cloud hota hai, koi ye cloud hota hai, koi thick cloud hota hai, whatever, science of cloud, they are all different. So he, Nikhilananji is sometimes funny also. He's saying the good, bad, and ugly, when we talk about it, all in the cloud, not in the space. Space doesn't have anything to do with it. And then speed and movement is also not in the space. It is in the cloud. It could be slow cloud, fast moving cloud, everything. But the space is constant, is sthir, non-moving. Those are the characteristics of Brahman also. And then in space there is no shape, no sound, no color. But all these things can be जब बादल गरजते हैं तो कैसे साउंड होता है उनमें. All these things are characteristic of the cloud. Same way, all of us have different characteristics, but Brahman is all uniform, and it is beyond. The space is beyond the cloud, the same way Brahman is beyond all of us. So this is how we have to understand God. And then he was just reminding, I don't know if anybody has seen that. I've heard about it. That particular temple I have not seen. There are these temples in South India of 5 different elements. And one in Chidambaram, it seems there is a temple which is dedicated to space. Space meaning Akash, Tattva. It's a Shiva's temple. And there is no murti over there. There's just one curtain, it seems, and you're supposed to, imagine Brahman through this. Very interesting. So it is the subtlest of the expression of God. So he was just saying that space is just like a symbol. And we already know that God is subtler than that because space has come from God. But it's the closest example. That's why he gave it. And then he also talked about that, in Vedanta, they call it like Chidakash. उसको consciousness को ना जैसे आकाश की तरह बताया है, चिदाकाश रूपः. There are some bhajans, songs maybe है चिदाकाश or chidrup consciousness. It's like a conscious space. Because when we see this space, we feel it's inert, right? There's no consciousness in it. But here you're talking about consciousness, which is conscious. So that's the difference. So he was just saying that, on one hand, with the example we understand, but it is a little difficult topic. But just stay there and slowly we will get it, what they're trying to say. And Nikhilanandji was explaining that why Bhagwan is going through this exercise for us. Because now soon he's going to talk about bhakti. Because, log have a very confused idea about bhakti. But, in Bhagavad Gita, true bhakti comes much later after you understand who God is. Then tabhi real bhakti jaag sakti hai. Uske pehle it is just some kind of a, form of bhakti, but not true bhakti. Because he was just saying that we will understand about love for God when we know the meaning of God first, And because he was just saying that, because he's very funny sometimes, his example. He said, in the name of loving God, you may be loving something else only. He's saying that some people say, oh, I love God so much, I love God so much. So where is your God? He says, he's in my pocket. Because कोई छोटी सी मूर्ति अपने pocket में रखेंगे, बोलेंगे, this is my, I love him so much. And then, I'll show you. And then they will show, and then they put it back in the pocket. फिर एक दिन कुछ चोरी हो गया ना pocket में से. So they will say, oh, Bhagwan chori ho gaye, mere Bhagwan chale gaye. He was just joking that that's not the kind of Bhagwan here he's talking about, what Brahman is in the deepest sense. So he's saying that if we don't know who God is, then we may have some kind of imaginary God leke hum log baith jate hain, Here Krishna Bhagwan is telling us in truest form what God is. So he was just giving a worldly example that hypothetically just say, that this one person says, oh, I love this one particular person. So, and you ask them, oh, so who is that person? Oh, I have not seen them. Fall in love with somebody that you have not even seen. And say, have you seen the photograph? No. You're saying that how can you love? He's just an imaginary person. So if you say that I love somebody, we should know who he is. Okay? And where is he? What is his nature? How is he? Everything you need to know before you can start loving. Then only you can say that you love. So that's why this topic is very important. So I think he put it in a perspective why Bhagwan is going through this exercise. Because before discussing bhakti, Bhagwan is telling us you should know which God you should worship and, which God you should surrender to and pray to, and which God is my own nature. With which God I'm one with. So that's why he's giving all that. And so in short, just telling us who God really is, these things. So in nutshell, Bhagwan gives this example, of air, that the way it exists in the space, all beings exist in him. So that's what it is. So he explains the relationship of Brahman to us, to the world, and it is called the relationless relationship. Now, any question, comment, or anyone wants to add anything to this example? So it looks like everybody's satisfied with Krishna Bhagwan's Krishna Bhagwan's example. Shall we read then? Urmil ji, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said just like there's a temple just with space. So that's how Baha'i temples are. Is that like same concept?
Yeah, I don't know too much about Baha'i faith as such, but the lot of religions, they don't believe in form, right? They go to the formless. But what the beauty of our religion, which I find, is that there is both paths are there, right? So because the mind is very difficult to go and formless. It's a lot easier to connect to a form. So through the form, you go to formless, then it becomes easy. But the danger in the form में क्या होता है, लोग form में अटक के रह जाते हैं. That's the danger. So a lot of other religions, they want to bypass that. They say इस पछड़े में पड़ो ही मत. लेकिन हमारे में ऐसा नहीं कहा गया है. हमारे में कहा गया है कि सब कुछ भगवान का ही रूप है, तो तुम तो किसी में भी तुम भगवान को देख के प्रे कर सकते हो. It's a much broader concept. I think the way Chinmayanand ji explains, you have a whole buffet of ways that you can contact भगवान. तो बोलते कि किसी को खाने पे बुलाओ तुम, तो तुम एक चीज नहीं बनाते हो, 4 चीज बनाते हो. हम लोग खुद खाना खाएंगे तो 1-2 में खा लेंगे, लेकिन कोई बुलाएंगे तो बिकॉज यू थे पता नहीं इसको ये अच्छा लगेगा या ये अच्छा लगेगा, कुछ तो खाएगा इसमें से. So same way, they have so many different ways, but I think that it's very much possible that that's why they have nothing. ऐसे तो मस्जिद में भी जाओ तो कुछ नहीं है वहाँ पे, right? और चर्च में भी there are 2 type of churches. One believe in a little bit मूर्ति. मेरे को ज़्यादा नहीं मालूम है, but my son was explaining to me that certain Catholic churches वगैरह में they will have all these मूर्ति, but there are some churches they have nothing. They just have a cross, which is just a symbol. So true. What you're saying is true. There are a lot of them.
I mean, in Gurudwaras, there's Granth Sahib.
Right.
Masjid, there is Quran.
Yeah.
But in Baha'i, there's nothing.
Nothing
at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know that Parsis, they worship Bhagwan in the roop of fire. They have अग्यारी में fire को worship करते हैं. तो और अपने में तो fire is also extremely sacred. You know that. So but अपने में यही ब्यूटी है कि मंदिर है ना, वो एक बाहर जैसा टेम्पल, वो जो कोई चाहेगा चिदम्बरम में तो देख के आना उसको, स्पेस का मंदिर. So true.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to read, Urmil ji? You have this book? I can hear you.
My Gita is older.
Older. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, any volunteers? Meena ji. Go ahead.
As the mighty wind, moving everywhere, rests always in space, the Akasha, even so, know you, all beings rest in me. The confused prince, trying to reconcile the full import of the riddle, is helped here by the kindly teacher in Krishna by a vivid example. To imagine the idea of a substance that exists everywhere, allowing everything to exist in it, but at the same time, it in itself does not get conditioned by the things that exist in it, is very difficult, and the ordinary comprehension cannot easily soar to those heights of understanding and appreciation. As a prop for an ordinary intellect to raise itself up so that it may peep over its own limitations and gain a vision at the unraveling expanse of the infinite, Here is a brilliant example given by the wonder singer of the Yamuna Ghats.
So here, you saw that Krishna Bhagwan is saying that it's hard to imagine a substance that exists everywhere, allowing everything to exist in it. But at the same time, in it itself not getting conditioned by. So that this is the only time. And with the children, we used to give that example that whatever happens, in the world, bomb explosion, this, that, temporarily it looks like, the air gets polluted and all that. But again, it gets cleaned up, number one. And then Akash ko to sachmuch hi kuch nahi hota. There could be a nuclear blast and nothing is going to happen to the sky. So it is a very powerful example that no matter what happens in the world, the Akash stays absolutely immaculate, the same way it's Brahman.
The cross can never condition the subtle. As the poet sings, stone walls do not make a prison, for even though we may imprison the body of the prisoner, his thoughts are ever free to reach his kith and kin at their hearth. The gross stone walls cannot limit the flight of the subtle thoughts. If once this principle is well understood, the example becomes very expressive, exhibiting all its secret suggestions.
So Swamiji always explains these 5 elements, he says that it is the subtlety of each one that, you go beyond, and that's how it is. And when he was talking about this, that, if you can prison somebody's body, but their mind you cannot imprison. And ek drishtanta hai, which I heard, which was really a nice one, that there was a saint and, one of the cruel kings and all that, usko badi, usse, like he didn't like this saint, तो उसको कोई बहाना लगा के उसने ना जेल में बंद कर दिया. So उसको लगा कि थोड़े दिन में जेल में बंद होएगा तो अपने आप अकल ठिकाने आ जाएगी, and then he will bow down to me or something like that, So ये अपना साधु जेल में बैठा था. After a couple of days he came and the sadhu was still very happy. So he said कि hey, what do you mean? Why तेको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा? So he said, no, वो जो ऊपर खिड़की है ना, उसमें से sunlight आती है. उसको देख के मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि भाई I'm connected with this, something bright. So उसको बहुत गुस्सा आया तो, और वहाँ से ना एक थोड़ा plant grow कर रहा था. So he said, see, the life is there and all that. So उसने ना वो भी बंद कर दिया. फिर 2-3 दिन के बाद आया और बोला कि hey, you're still not depressed, what's up, how come? So he said, oh, you close that, then I close my eyes and I'm thinking of God, the creator of this whole thing. So he could not stop him from that. So then he kind of freed him, and so that was the Drishtanta. And I think that we have heard a lot of stories of the Holocaust people who came out, who were kind of alive, that how they survived. Some of them, it was the most horrible thing, but they kept their spirit up by somehow connecting to something higher within themselves, So that's what Swamiji is trying to portray over here through that, you can only, control the body, but the mind, you're free to think whatever you want to, because it doesn't connect to it.
Know you, Arjuna, that the winds swirl and whirl around everywhere in space. They can move and exist only in space. The space supports and envelops them everywhere, and yet they do not ever at all limit the space. This beautiful example, when meditated upon by any seeker, if he has at least an average amount of intellectual comprehension, will enable him to define, at least in his own mind, the right relationship that exists between the self and the not-self. The real supports the unreal. The unreal seemingly lives through the history of misery and sorrows, fleeting joys and passing pleasures in the real, and yet the unreal can never condition the real.
So we saw that it just telling you the 2 different characteristic of this, space and the air, that space accommodates the air, but it doesn't get affected by it. The same thing that, it's a very powerful example. And then he's saying the real supports the unreal. this is the relationship they're trying to tell, that without that we cannot be. But all our miseries and this and that and all, nothing happens in that. And that's why Krishna Bhagavan told Arjun that you establish yourself in that truth. Then you can handle this world. That's why we are learning all these things, that is our true nature. This is just a temporary thing. So we should not get so disturbed about it. That's what the message is, indirectly, like that,
That line, the real supports the unreal, that's really important, because if we see that we are just inert, without that, everything is inert. Even we ourselves, the bodies are objects.
Exactly.
The mind is objects. So how the objects by themselves cannot exist.
True.
Without the support.
And that support is the one that doesn't get affected.
Yeah, that itself doesn't get affected by these things.
So, but हम लोग को when we get affected, सबसे पहले हम लोग ऐसे होते हैं, वो मेरे को ऐसा हो रहा है. But they are trying to tell you to become a witness. That is just happening to my body and mind. I'm not that anyway.
Yeah.
It's a difficult journey, but the more we meditate upon it, the more we likely to kind of believe in it and becomes part of our thinking.
I don't know whether this is a good example, is the electricity and the bulbs. Bulbs on their own cannot do anything.
True.
Without that electric.
Mm-hmm.
That electricity, at this point, with a limited example, the electricity becomes the real. And the objects, the other whatever objects are there which take up the electricity.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing you. Is there a problem?
No. What happened?
Oh, okay. Couldn't see you.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, it's okay now. It's okay now.
Maybe, it depends on everybody's internet, actually.
Okay, and I said, okay, what happened?
There is electricity. Electricity is going through, but the object here.
Okay, that's what I'm... Yeah.
That's a good example. You see that electricity में कोई problem नहीं है, मगर तुम्हारा equipment, internet का जो connection है उसमें है.
So it helped me out. So,
ऐसे हमारा भी कभी कभी फ्यूज हो जाता है, कि कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है क्या करें. दिमाग में फ्यूज हो गया, फिर वापस उसको चालू करो with all these shastras.
I was just thinking of maybe that's not a very good example, but it is there. Again, it's the same thing. It's happening again. I cannot see you.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's in between, cutting off somewhere along the line.
Yeah, we can see it, everybody. I can see everybody.
I don't know. I was having that problem. In between, I could see her. Then I was still talking and I couldn't see her.
I think Bhagavan is trying to show you that, remember that Nikhilanand ji's कि अभी clouds है, अभी नहीं है. मगर reality में है. Space
No,
में.
Can Sushil ji see everything? I mean, you are in the same house.
No, but we're in the different rooms.
And they are using different equipments. That's why.
Anyway, I guess I should continue with just reading. That might help. Examples.
Yeah.
When the wind is moving, the space need never move. None of the qualities of the wind is the quality of the space, Akasha. Compared with the outstretching infinite space, in which the universes keep on revolving among themselves at a speed measured in light years, the atmospheric disturbances are only up to the height of few miles off the surface of the globe. In the infinite vastness of the real, the arena of disturbances caused by the flirtations with its own assumed self-ignorance is only at a negligible area. And even there, the relationship between the false and the real is the relationship between the fickle breeze and the infinite space.
So see how this example is so powerful, because just like the space is extremely vast, and if you think about the atmospheric air, it is very thin layer, and I think those people who go up on that space station and stay there for a year or two, वो लोग बताते हैं कि जो एटमॉस्फेयर है ना वो इतना डेलिकेट दिखाई देता है. बोलते हैं क्या कर रहे हो तुम लोग हमारे एटमॉस्फेयर को इतना pollute कर रहे हो. They feel so bad that all the people are polluting that because it's a very delicate one, small thin thing. In the vastness of the space, it's like negligible. That's what he's saying. In the vastness of that Brahman, this world is negligible. And people have such big egos about it, fighting with each other. And all. It's just because if you think of that Brahman, अपने आप ego एकदम dissolve हो जाएगा. Because it's, you are like such a speck in there. Earth is just a speck, actually. So it's a very powerful example.
These two are stanzas not merely to be explained away by words, however true the commentator may be. They are to be meditated upon by the students individually. Milk cannot be eaten nor laddu swallowed. Those who do so may come to suffer.
So Swamiji said that कितना भी great commentator क्यों ना हो वो इसको पूरी तरह से नहीं समझा पाएगा. So best is sit with this example and meditate upon it, and then you will get it. I thought by that laddu and this thing he gave, if you try to swallow the laddu just like that, you'll suffer. And milk, if you start chewing, there will be problems. So don't even try, he's saying, too much. Means just don't listen to this and give it up, but just meditate upon it. That's what he's trying to say. This could be a very good way of, if somebody is having difficulty in meditation, these verses would be absolutely fantastic to meditate upon.
Milk is subtler than the laddu. So you can have milk with the laddu and swallow it, but not the vice versa. I mean, that's how I thought of it.
No, that's a very good way of thinking. Yes. See, yeah.
And, with laddu, you need that something, even the saliva of your own, or the milk, that will help you swallow it.
Yeah.
That laddu has to work with something liquid, and that's your saliva or the milk. And that's how I thought of it, the object and the subtler of them.
That was great. That was great what you thought of. Very nice.
But Meenaji, a bite of laddu would be better than just swallowing the whole laddu.
For a bite of laddu, you need the saliva with it.
Yeah, I think Meena, that's
Even that.
So,
Meenaji, great example.
so we can.
Like this, they say no कि अगर तुमको लक्ष्मी चाहिए तो नारायण के साथ लेना लक्ष्मी. अगर खाली लक्ष्मी लोगे ना तो वो there is a दृष्टांत, वो उल्लू पे बैठ के आती है, फिर तुम्हारा सब सत्यानाश हो जाएगा. But if you want, कमल पे आए, हंस पे आए, तो then you gotta take with Narayan, and if you take it with Narayan, she'll bless you. Then they say Narayan के तो पाँव दबाती है लक्ष्मी, so it will bless you. So that's what it is. That's what you're saying, that, take the, world with the Brahman. Then we'll be able to swallow this. Very good. So the connecting one, you want to read that?
Okay, sure. Then what about your wonderful theory of the systematic law of rebirth? The story of a creator creating the world during his daytime and dissolving the entire lot during his nighttime, and so on. Listen.
So, obviously, if you become totally immersed in this, then फिर दुनिया का क्या भाई, दुनिया कहाँ से आई and all that, तो उसको वो topic को छोड़ा नहीं है भगवान ने. And you saw that he started that topic in earlier also in chapter 8. I started from chapter 7, but every time he's going to go more in detail. So it goes simultaneously about Brahman and the world, so that we know the correct relationship. And why do we come, why this world was created, and how come, जब हम लोग पैदा होते हैं तो हमारे में संस्कार वगैरह होते already होते हैं, right? Like impressions from the previous life. So जब प्रलय हो जाती है तो फिर where do the संस्कार go? कोई कहीं नहीं जाते हैं, वो भी अंदर ही रहते हैं. जब वापस सृजन होता है फिर से वही बाहर निकलता है,
Yeah, so the same world coming back
Yes,
again.
yes.
The dissolve.
Exactly. So, but then, there's a lot of science behind it. It's not a random, because sometimes, like the Western, if you only talk about materialism, the material scientists, and there is not talk about spiritual and all that, then there's just so much confusion. They think that this world is just like a one big confusion. Either thoda soup dala, udhar soup dala, or life bahar nikal gayi, and sab random hai. Like when kids are born, they have some tendencies. Like in our grandson, the music tendency. हमारी फैमिली में कोई नहीं है म्यूजिक वाला. वो हमको सिखाते हैं म्यूजिक अभी. पता नहीं. So we are forced to think it is some from previous life. So it's, where are they coming from? But there's such beautiful explanation, so scientific, and it makes so much sense. तब मन शांत हो जाता है. Okay, now I know. Otherwise there's so much confusion. Where it's coming from. Any other comment, question, or anybody want to add anything to these beautiful, beautiful verses and example?
So
Now-
these go together. 4 to 6 go together.
Yes.
basically, that one
Yeah.
set.
One set, yes, that you can say that. Yeah. Now the Bhagavad Gita is warming up, isn't it? With all these things.
Interesting.
Abhi tak sab, was a foundation. Now Krishna Bhagwan is really at it with Arjun and all of us, going into the depth. It's very exciting, I think, that the way he's explaining it.
And the way you explain it to us.
Well, I'm just doing, whatever through the Chinmayananji and all that. And I'm glad, I'm so happy to do it. I'm just thrilled myself because I get to think about it and, a lot. Yeah. Okay, so if there is no other comment, Neeraji,
Umaji, I have a request. In beginning of class, you had mentioned for last week's class that there are 3 important points. One is I pervade the universe, but you cannot see me. And the third is I do not depend on anyone. I missed the second one. I was writing them down.
Oh, the second one was that the world exists in me, not the vice versa. We had churned upon this whole thing that हम लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं ना, भगवान तो मेरे अंदर है, right? So जब हम लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं ना, तो it appears to be जैसे मैं बहुत बड़ा हूँ, भगवान मेरे अंदर छोटे से है. So ये बोल रहे नहीं, तुम्हारे में भगवान नहीं है, तुम भगवान में हो. हाँ. So that the whole world is just a small part of Bhagwan. That's what it means.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So it just kind of changes our thinking, and we had talked about it that we think that we are humans, having a spiritual experience, and Krishna Bhagwan is saying, hello, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. So when you drop all these 5 koshas, when we, that's why those near-death experience, whatever they say, it matches with the Bhagavad Gita 100%. Because, they suddenly feel connected to the whole universe, they feel free, they feel unconditional love and all those things, But that's who we are. Any other thing? So we can go to Taittiriya now, because Taittiriya wala, ye wala jo verse hai, wo thoda bada hai, and then we can spend a little more time there then. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.